I support Planned Parenthood.
I support Planned Parenthood because it provides a valuable service for poor and working class people and gives them access to medical assistance that they simply would not be able to afford otherwise. Things like prenatal care, contraception, vasectomies, routine physical exams, HIV tests, and screenings for diabetes, breast cancer, male infertility, and thyroid problems, among countless others. Without them, literally millions of people would have nowhere to turn to for their medical problems or queries. Planned Parenthood literally saves lives, and because of all that I've stated, I stand with Planned Parenthood.
I support Planned Parenthood, not only because of the millions of men, women, and children that it helps all around the world every year, but because it's been there for me.
Hi, Bushonomics here. I support Planned Parenthood because they help to provide critical reproductive health care services for millions of poor and low-income women who don't have access to other insurance and health care options. They do this both domestically and overseas in something like 12 countries. They educate women about their reproductive health. They educate them about the consequences of having unprotected sex. They help to prevent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of unwanted and unintended pregnancies, many of which would end in abortion otherwise. Take a moment to think about what Planned Parenthood and organizations like them actually do, and think about giving them your support. Thank you.
I support Planned Parenthood. I support women's right to choose what happens to their own bodies. I support the right to rectify an error of judgment made in the heat of the moment. Sometimes contraception fails. A lot of the time youngsters are pressurised by their peers into sexual relationships they are not ready for. It's folly to believe that youngsters are not sexually active. It's folly to believe that youngsters are not going to make errors. It's also a folly to believe that they should be made to live with that error for the rest of their lives. On the other side of the coin, rapes. Contrary to what many people believe, most rapes are committed by husbands, partners, or very close friends. Should they be made to go through with a term of pregnancy? Should they have to be reminded of that day for the rest of their lives? Is it really fair to subject them to even further emotional turmoil just to massage the ego of the pro-lifers? Every case must be judged on an individual basis, and there are many, many different reasons why people choose abortion. It is not a simple black and white issue, I'm afraid. Please write to your representative and urge them to say no to HR 217.
Because I'm for sexual health. Because I want children to be born in families who want them there, who await with bated breath for their arrival, rather than dread their existence. Because I think that screening for STDs is pretty darn important. Because I understand that Planned Parenthood also helps in prenatal care. Because I want families to understand what they're going to be getting into when they become a parent. Because I want mothers to have classes to learn how to take care of their kid.
I support Planned Parenthood because I have daughters, and Bronze Age misogyny cannot fulfill their needs.
I support Planned Parenthood because of their education programs. For 95 years, they have worked against those who would convince society that ignorance of sexuality is our best defense from the potential dangers of sexuality. I find it telling that opponents of Planned Parenthood often resort to lying about the history of the organization, the goals of the organization, and smearing the names of its founders through fabricated quotes or, at the very best, out of context quotes that make them look like communists or Nazis or eugenicists or any number of things, depending on the group that's talking. Kind of reminds me of certain other groups in our country that, well, thrive on spreading ignorance.
Hi, I'm Richard the Dick Coughlin, 616, and I support Planned Parenthood. Why? Well, because I'm an atheist, and as a result, it is my mission and my duty to make sure that as many innocent babies are killed indiscriminately as possible.
I support Planned Parenthood because education and preventative measures are far better than the mass increase in abortions that would result if Planned Parenthood were to be suspended. With only 3% services from Planned Parenthood being abortion related, it's fairly obvious that the education they provide, as well as other services, work. I also support Planned Parenthood because, directed towards people who feel they have the moral obligation to dictate as to how people deal with unwanted pregnancies, it's none of your damn business.
I support Planned Parenthood because when I needed testing, my local hospital turned me away. With no other clinics in the area I live in, the only place I had to turn to was Planned Parenthood. So I support Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood was there for me.
I support Planned Parenthood because reducing education on how to stop pregnancy is not going to reduce the number of abortions being performed every day.
"14 years ago in April, I gave birth to a beautiful little boy. It was through Planned Parenthood that I had my pregnancy test and was given references to area healthcare providers who accepted Medicaid. I had no insurance despite being employed full-time. I found the most incredible midwife through those references and experienced a good pregnancy and birth, in part due to her care. Planned Parenthood was there for me when I needed them, and I am here now for them when they need me."
I support Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood supports everyone. And that includes those who deny the realities of modern civilization. We cannot afford to constantly wait for those who will not move.
I support Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood supports us.
I support Planned Parenthood because I support women. I support a woman's right to choose. I support a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body. Although I may not be a woman, I will fight for the rights of every woman to have freedom over her own body. I will fight for the rights of every woman out there to feel safe and feel protected. I will fight for the rights of every woman out there to not have the government in their lives and in their uteruses. I support Planned Parenthood.
Because without education and options, the only alternative is desperation.
I support Planned Parenthood. I support Planned Parenthood because they provide reproductive health services for millions of people across the globe. STD testing, cancer screenings, birth control. Planned Parenthood is so much more than abortion. The GOP's direct attack on the funding of Planned Parenthood and other organizations is the religious right's diluted attack on the poor and the marginalized. The majority of the women that benefit from the services offered by Planned Parenthood and similar organizations are poor, and for most of them it is the only prenatal and reproductive health services they have access to. The Republican Party wants to repeal health care reform and at the same time defund other vital services directly related to women's reproductive health. They have no problem saying how much they care as they work tirelessly against a woman's right to choose. They have no problem telling the American public how much they care about the poor and the marginalized segments of our society as they strip them of access to vital medical services. They have no problem telling you and me how much they care as they legislate moral judgments, our minds, and our bodies. I have no problem supporting Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is so much more than abortion and birth control. Planned Parenthood is life. Life for so many women and families in the United States and around the world. I support Planned Parenthood.
I support Planned Parenthood because they provide affordable prenatal care to pregnant women.
I support Planned Parenthood because everyone deserves the right to non-judgmental safe-sex counseling and family planning, where an individual's, not a dogma's, requirements are considered of primary concern. I support Planned Parenthood because everyone deserves the right to make informed, carefully thought-out choices about what are perhaps the most important decisions in their lives, choices based on advice that is unbiased, tailored to the patient's specific circumstances, and that have his, her, or their physical and psychological health an utmost priority. I support Planned Parenthood because having a family, a child, is a huge step in a person's life that is far too often taken inappropriately lightly, because every child deserves to be planned, to be prepared for, and to be wanted by loving parents. No child should be an obligation, a burden, a trap, or at the very worst, a potential death sentence to the woman having it, for both the mother's and the child's sake. I support Planned Parenthood because I believe all of us are capable of making the best possible informed choices for ourselves, and that we deserve that freedom. A freedom that is taken away when we let other people decide what is best for our bodies and for our lives.
I support Planned Parenthood because it's an organization that provides an opportunity for people to pursue their basic human rights, to try to stay alive, to try to preserve their liberty, and to try to find some happiness in their life.
I live in the remote, wild state of Alaska, where Planned Parenthood has often been my only source of health care. For most places in Alaska, it can cost $1,000 just to go to a city that's large enough to have a public health clinic. Without being able to go to my local Planned Parenthood clinic, I would never have been able to have my children or raise them to be healthy, happy people, capable of enriching the world. Thank you for helping my family, my state, my country, and my world.
I support Planned Parenthood because they support those who have little or no support. They give desperate people hope, protection to those who would otherwise have no protection. They educate those in an atmosphere of abstinence-only education. They teach prevention where it is needed most. They provide STD and HIV and AIDS testing, cancer screenings for both men and women, diabetes screening, pregnancy testing, and prenatal and postnatal care, counseling in areas of domestic violence, child care, sexual orientation and gender, sex and sexuality, and body image. They provide birth control to those who wish to have it, rape crisis counseling, and much more. This is what they do for the poor and the working poor, and these services should be readily available to anyone. All this is what the government is trying to take away. Please don't let them.